And we've got Facebook Live going, and the Hangout is live on the air now too. So hello everyone, welcome to Transfiguring Adoption's discussion panel with experts for the month of November 2016. So we're glad that you could join us. I've got two great ladies here that are your experts this month, and they're going to be talking to us about finding how to see hope in the mess. Because we, at Transfiguring Adoption, we talked to a lot of caregivers that actually we just went to a convention, and we had a mom come up to us just in tears that someone would understand what she was going through, and just excited to have someone along the journey with her. So we hear of a lot of people that find themselves in a mess or think their life is a mess, and they just want to see hope or know that other people are along the journey with them. So before I get to our experts, I just wanted to do all the small print real quick and say that Transfiguring Adoption, we are a nonprofit, and we exist to create media and resources to nurture growth and foster an adoptive families. We also say that we nurture kids by giving a hoot about their caregivers. This discussion panel is not to be used as legal advice, medical advice, a replacement for what your agency you're working with might be saying, yada, yada, yada. All to say, please don't sue us. We're just trying to help you out, give you support, and help you along the journey. So yeah, no nasty emails, please. Usually I tell you that when our next panel is going to be, but since next month will be December, we are going to be taking the month off for Christmas with everyone's busy schedule. So, but please go to our website and check out all the resources and past discussion panels that we have. You'll find them useful. But I have Facebook Live just does not want to connect, guys, so I give up with that, which is fine because it has this nasty tripod in front of me. I want to introduce these two gals. They are amazing. They are both seasoned caregivers, and the reason that I asked them to be with us is because they do a great job with their children. But I hope neither one of them minds me saying that neither one of them has it all put together, just like those of you that are watching this. So, but they are making it, and they're doing a fantastic job with their families. So I have Laura CHROMZACK on here with us, and I also have KRISTEN SEQUIN on here. Can I just ask both of you ladies, can you just please tell us a little bit about yourselves and tell us what you're bringing to the panel tonight? Laura, I'll start with you. Oh, and I got no sound on Laura, so maybe KRISTEN, I will start with you. I'm not getting sound on either one of you. How's that? Pardon us while we have technical difficulty, folks. All right, Laura, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing good. Do you? Oh, we can hear you. I still can't hear KRISTEN for some reason. Laura, can you introduce yourself and just kind of tell us what you bring to the panel today?
Now, I don't know. Hope maybe I bring to the panel. I'm not sure what you're looking for, but we've been in the trenches for 6 years. We've been through a lot of different experiences. We've had some placements that have been longer term and some that have been, you know, shorter term. So I'm just here to
All right. And KRISTEN, see if you can tell us what you're bringing to the panel and just kind of introduce yourself. I'm not getting either one of you guys on here. I'm not sure what's going on. We had Laura for a little bit. Laura, are you on here?
I am.
All right,
Can you hear
Krista,
me?
you're still not on here, huh? Laura, can you hear her?
No.
Okay. That's unfortunate. Let me see if I can. Hey, Kristen, try to unplug your headphone set and plug it back in. Yeah. Oh, there I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Maybe my sound settings messed up on my end.
It's hard to tell. Google Hangout, I think, is sometimes touchy, but.
Well, maybe I'll just take off my fancy headset here.
Laura, are you still with us? Oh, Laura might have gone away now.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out what all these buttons mean. There, I see me.
All right. Hey, I'm going to start us over again. We only have a few people on here, so I'm going to start us over again. Kristen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're bringing to the table?
Sure. We've been doing foster care for about 10 years. And we're actually, before the month is over, we'll be finalizing 3 adoptions. So we'll have 5 total permanent children. In those years, we've experienced some big ups and downs. Are you ready yet? Not yet, buddy. He's keeping my spot warm. We're going to watch a movie. So we've seen hard times, and we've just gathered resources and tools, and we've done a lot of trainings. And so we've focused on learning different skills in order to get us through. And that's sort of how we focused on finding that hope when things are really hard. So that's just sort of our end of it.
Okay, and Laura, I don't think we got all of what you had said because we're having sound difficulties. Could you share with us again?
Yes, my name is Laura CHROMZACK. My husband and I, we've been fostering for over 6 years. And I agree with Kristen that we actually joined, and now we facilitate, Darren, a support group that meets locally, and that has been huge in our success and our ability to continue to foster. Just getting through day to day, it can be difficult, and you've got to surround yourself with people who can lift you up and help you out a little bit.
For sure, for sure. And again, I'll just reiterate too. Laura is running a successful support group in the Southern Illinois area called Community Kids. So if you are in the Southern Illinois area and watching and you're wanting support, feel free to search that out and find out more about it. Laura, I'll have you later on maybe share how they can find out more about that. And Kristen also is co-founder of a fantastic software program called Foster Garden, which helps you keep all of your data and forms and different things together. And it even, you can have it on the cloud too, right? So you can access documents and different things from your phone. Correct. While you're at, I mean, how many of us have ever forgotten, a foster parent has forgotten to bring a form or a medical something or other with them to a doctor's appointment, and you can just pull it right off your phone. So
right, you also have access to it during like FTMs and whatnot too, sometimes where you need to pull things in that you wouldn't have anticipated needing. So times like that.
Yeah, so both of these ladies are not just seasoned foster parents, but they're actively trying to figure out how to make your lives better. And they're in the trenches right there with you. But I just want, they didn't sell themselves how awesome they are, because they are both two dynamic women that are trying to not only be in the they're not only in the trenches with you, but they're making the world better and trying to get resources to you and make life easier for you. So they're a great support system for you. I just want to have a little fun here with you guys at first. I am going to start off with, I think I'll try to start off with Laura here. I just have some rapid fire questions. I don't want you to think about it. Some of them really don't have anything to do with what we're going to be talking about tonight. I just think they're fun and get us warmed up and let people meet you. So Laura,
Okay.
here are your
Yes.
rapid fire questions. Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Thanksgiving.
Hershey's or Godiva?
Godiva.
Romance or comedy?
Comedy.
Family movie night or day trip to a museum?
Probably family movie night.
Which is more irksome? Caseworker stretching the truth or birth parent stretching the truth?
Caseworkers.
Which is more irksome again? Child swearing at you or child telling you no? All right, and Kristen, Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Oh, Christmas.
Hershey's or Godiva?
Hershey's.
Romance or comedy?
Comedy.
Movie night or museum trip?
Definitely movie night.
More irksome, caseworker stretching the truth or birth parent?
Caseworker.
More irksome again, child flipping you off or child lying to you?
Lying.
Which is funny. I think I would have chosen that too. Well, let's get down to it, you guys. So a foster trainer, because we're trying to get we're in the process of getting our licensing again in Tennessee because my wife and I moved from Illinois. The trainer told us that being a foster parent is unfair. And she said, you have to understand that now. Can you tell us about times when you felt like being a foster parent or an adoptive parent is just unfair?
Daily. Daily.
It definitely is daily.
You want a specific thing?
Or general things, like how do you both feel like
Right.
it's unfair?
This is one thing that I tell people when they ask me what it's like to be a foster parent. And one example that I use is that if anybody should be allowed to smoke, it's foster parents. Not that I want to, but yeah, I would just like the option. Sometimes we feel like our options are a little more constricted and refined, and nobody else has to follow these rules but us.
And you just want all freedom, right?
We're just purchasing a new house. And we actually were touring it, and we thought, we better call a licensing worker before we make a decision on this house. And I was actually texting with my licensing worker while we're touring a house. And it just, as I'm doing it, the realtors look at me, I'm like, this is absurd. Nobody else makes decisions on what house they're going to purchase based on what their licensing worker is going to think.
It's true, and that's kind of the life that we lead.
Hi, realtor. This is me, my husband. Oh, and she's the one who's going to decide.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even live with us.
Right.
and she only sees us maybe monthly or weekly.
Right, but she's the decider.
Yes.
Well, it's those are such unusual things to have to do. I can think of an instance where a caseworker actually came to our home and tested the temperature of light bulbs in our home. Afraid that, if a kid got on the ceiling, they might yeah. What do you do when you're getting all of that can become overwhelming. Do you ever get overwhelmed with that when you're looking at a house and you're like, I guess someone else better make the decision for me? Do you guys ever have those overwhelming feelings?
I would say no. Sarcasm runs strong in our household. So, when the caseworker is over and she is testing the temperature of our water, my husband's cracking jokes like, oh yeah, I turned that up to 180 degrees last week. I hope that's not a problem.
Sounds like our house. I think for me, knowing the manual helps. So when they're coming and they're looking for things, I know what they're looking for as they're walking around. So it's not nerve-wracking. If they were to be talking to me about the light bulbs, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not in the manual. Why are we doing this?
Right.
But so knowing the expectations and knowing what they can ask of you is helpful in that regard, so that you don't feel like everything's so intrusive. I know what to expect. I know what is going to be part of every home visit. Actually, when they don't do it, I can be like, hey, why aren't we doing this? But so knowledge is power there.
So let me turn the question a little bit more to the unfair parts that a foster or adoptive parent, well, mostly foster parent, I guess, doesn't have any control over. So do you both ever have times where you're frustrated, or how do you feel when a judge or a caseworker or even a birth parent brings about something and you have no say in it? Like I believe, I know when we were in Illinois and foster parents, it was considered just a privilege to be able to be in the courtroom. Not that we got to say anything or have any input, but it was a privilege just to have the honor to sit in the courtroom and hear what was going on. How do you feel during those times where you are the one caring for the child, but you have little to no say of what's going on in things?
I might be a little different. Can you hear me, Darren? Because
Yep.
Your sound went down a little bit.
Nope, I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, now your sound went down.
I don't hear her either.
No. Interesting. Well, Kristen, do you ever have times like that? Like, what do you do when you don't feel, I guess, you don't have control of the situation? Do you ever have those times?
There are those times, whether it's, educational or medical decisions, usually is where it comes in, or transport where, where you don't feel like enough consideration is given to your schedule when changes are being made. And that is just one of those things. And it's, for me, it's, you have to vent about it, have that person that you can talk with who understands and has sort of been there, the support system to just hear you out. There's nothing you can do to change it if it is something truly like that, where you have no control, whether it's like a court decision or a DHS decision that you can't argue it. So just having those people that you can connect with that have experienced it too, that you can chat with and sort of understand. And at those times, just even in terms of your social network, it's important to have people that understand and who can maybe jump in and help if it's a transportation struggle or a different struggle like that. Rely on your friends. Make friends that have been there. Other foster parents in your community. Nobody understands like our group of people. So by connecting and forming that support network, you have that extra help, whether it's just someone to come and sit at your house and, eat spinach dip with you at 11 p.m. to get through.
Hey, Laura, are you back on with us, or are you still having sound issues?
I'm still having sound issues. Can you hear me? It's like I'm frozen over here.
I can hear you right now. What was your response to that? Oh.
It's like teasing. First she's there, then she's not.
There she's not, and then we don't get her. It's like we get to hear her answer, and then we don't get to hear her answer. Well, let me go on. So the last question was kind of involved family. let me go one step further into the selfishness circle. So do you ever feel like your life is now a mess? KRISTEN, you kind of alluded to it, where it was like not enough attention or not enough concern is being given to your schedule. Things are being scheduled without your say-so maybe. Do you ever feel like life has just become this uncontrollable runaway roller coaster, and it's just not fair? You've given up too much of your life for what's being expected of you?
There were definitely times, especially earlier on, where it felt like that. Where you're sort of getting used to what is expected of foster parents. You haven't really found your voice yet to draw lines and say, that's beyond what I'm going to do. I can't do that. You have to, that's, for me, it was knowing the manual, knowing what was required of me. I was able to gain back some of that control. But, you know, especially when the kids were really struggling a couple of years ago, dealing with all of the traumatic things that had happened, we weren't sleeping, you know, 2 hours here, 45 minutes there, in addition to all of the demands of parenting time and medical appointments and therapy, and just finding your voice to take back control in those times, I think is important.
So, Laura, let's try it. Let's see if you, whoa, we're like doing disco. So what do you ever feel like you've given up too much of your life or lost your voice?
Yes. Do you hear me now?
I do.
Okay, good. Yeah, things can get a little crazy. I'm kind of a management of time person, and so it frustrates me if they tell me I've got to drop a thing and do this right now, because I kind of operate 2 or 3 months in advance. People dropping things on me last minute is just not kosher for me. But again, you kind of have to vent a little bit about it, and there are things that you can't change. I mean, if court gets changed, you know, you want to be there because you want to hear the information, because there's a lot of information that people can't just come out right and tell you about the case. But if you're there and you're hearing it, you know, that's okay. So, all right, yes, I will drop everything, move heaven, earth, and stars, excuse me, to be there. Get frustrating. And
so something that both of you are talking about, though, is you both are so seasoned and you've done this so much. I think one thing that was interesting was at first, KRISTEN, you were saying at first this is how it was, but then so I'm hearing KRISTEN saying I found my voice. How would you, besides studying the manual, how do people find their voice? Because I think that is a huge part of finding hope in the mess, is finding your voice.
I think a lot of it was just gaining confidence in what we were doing, and that we were doing a good job. You know, we certainly were having our struggles, but we were the ones here with the kids, going through the struggles, managing the behaviors, managing the school struggles, all of these things, putting it all together, and recognizing that what we had to say had value, and not being afraid to say it. It was challenging in the beginning because you're there with people who are the experts, who are the professionals, and sometimes it can be hard to say, no, this is not going to happen this way. This is what's better for the kids. This is what's better, and because it's better for the family, it's better for the kids. So being able to have that voice, but doing it in a way that you're clearly not trying to obstruct anything, but standing up for your family and for the children.
Did you have anything to add on that, Laura?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in the end of the day, you know, at the end of the day, you are the advocate for the child, and you're not there.
You're right. It's such a tease because it like the sound comes on and then it goes off.
It's gonna be good. You know it was gonna be good.
I know.
Man.
Oh, there it's back.
It's back now?
Yeah.
Okay. can give a clear professional picture of what is happening in your life and why these people, you know, the other cogs in the wheel, need to understand it. I think some mistakes that I have seen other foster parents make is they come out and they're high emotional, you know, very emotional about it. And yes, you are the advocate for the child, but you have to think like an advocate or an attorney. You have to present your case minus the emotion, because then you're going to get hurt. I've seen too many foster parents that just come at it with emotion and shut them down, and then the point and the message don't really get heard or understood.
Definitely facts only.
Well, isn't it interesting, I think, that we talk so much about how our kids have lost their voice, and that's why they're in foster care, that's why they've been adopted, and we as caregivers need to give them back their voice, and we're taught over and over again, give them back their voice, this is what you can do to give. But here, I think it's interesting that we're talking about, as caregivers, we need to figure out where our voice is at, and we've lost our voice. Because I'm hearing both of you say that as a new foster parent, your emotion is taking away your voice, or just even that intimidation of working with the professionals is taking away your voice. What advice would both of you, what do you wish people had told both of you when you were first becoming a foster parent or adopting? What do you wish someone would have said, you know, life's gonna get messy, you need to know this?
Trauma training, trauma for us. We had no idea when our very first case that we had no idea what these behaviors meant, how to get a handle on them. We had to parent these children completely different from how we had parented our biological children. It was mind-blowing to us, the differences. And you know, and I look back on how the decisions we made in trying to manage some of those behaviors, and I just shake my head like, what was I thinking? That was a disaster. Why did you do that? So for us, talking to new foster parents, the first thing we say, these are not like your biological children. They're not like your nieces and nephews. They're going to respond to things differently, and you need to learn how to understand what that means. You know, behavior is communication. They're communicating their needs to you. You need to figure out how to understand that communication, and then things will go more smoothly. But having that understanding that, you know, of course we knew the behaviors would be more intense, but we didn't understand the root of it. And I wish we would have.
And I'm gonna real quick interject. I forgot to tell everyone that you can ask our panel questions. If you're watching us live, feel free to ask questions. You can do so by tweeting to #T, that's T as in Tom, adopt. I'm going to be watching that feed here shortly. I have one more question, and then we'll get to your questions. You can also, if you're watching on YouTube, you can just ask your question through the comment section on here, or if you're on Facebook Live, you can just type in on there. You can also email at info@transfiguringadoption.com, and I will be checking that. But we will be taking your questions here shortly. How do both of you fight hopelessness? Because even the best caregiver, we have our days where life just seems overwhelming. There are too many doctor appointments. Kids' behaviors do the bunny hop. We've gone two hops forward and 3 hops back. And you just want to, like my wife would say, she just wants to go to the bathroom, curl up in the fetal position, and cry.
Everyone doesn't do that all
the time. Hey, we could start a new group called the fetal bathroom floor dwellers or something like that.
That's good. I actually have mommy timeouts, and pretty much every day, sometime around 8 or 9 o'clock, I am in my bathroom when there's 2 layers of doors locked, so that if kids, you know, get one open, they can't get to the other one. And I'm in a bubble bath, and that you're not allowed to talk to me right then.
That's awesome. Laura,
Yeah.
how do you fight the hopelessness? She chooses not to speak. That's how she fights the hopelessness. Your phone is on strike. It is on strike. I know for Margie and I also, we tried to get away by doing date nights. Now, that's interesting because it doesn't always happen, just due to people are sometimes intimidated to have to watch kiddos with trauma. But that's one thing that we try to do to get away.
Can you hear me now? There I am.
Now.
I can see myself.
You need to work for Verizon.
Oh, seriously. So really quick before I lose my microphone again, I'm the type of person that I allow myself a pity party for about 5 minutes and then I just, suck it up and move on. I do give myself times.
I never know whether to tell her that she's not on or just
have a moment.
Just have a moment.
We'll have some coffee. Let her think she's speaking.
I know. Where is my coffee? I need coffee now. Laura, I'm so sad that your microphone's not working. How do you fight the hopelessness right now? You've got nothing, kid. I'm going to go ahead and go to some questions that we have. Okay. This one's interesting because it's actually from a grandparent. And I'll paraphrase somewhat here. Basically, this is an adoptive grandparent. Basically says, I am in love with my adoptive grandkids. Like they want to make sure that that's heard right now. But I see the toll their trauma is having on my daughter. How do you have hope in this situation? So I guess they're talking about the trauma behaviors and different things going on, and I've seen that, just how family members, I mean, it does take a toll, not just on the foster parents, but on their family too.
I think it's hard for everybody, even extended family, obviously. Walking the journey with her, though, and being there for her. Like life doesn't need to be easy to be happy. You can go through that together. Whatever you're going through, watching the pain that your daughter's having, and whatever your daughter's going through, living through these issues, it's still not as big as what those kids are feeling, surviving what they've survived, and walking that journey together. You look at those kids, even on the hard days, they still have moments where they are just kids and they smile, and you can see that in there, and you have to cling to those moments to help those moments grow bigger. Mm-hmm. And as you do that, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you'll be looking back and you're like, we did that together. This is something to be proud of. We grew stronger together. We made it through these hard times. And now look, and it's still not perfect, and it still might not look like the neighbors look like, but it's your own triumph at the end of that. Accepting that it's not going to look like the neighbor's journey is part of that, but walking that together and being there with her. Take her out for margaritas.
Yeah. Laura, did you have anything you wanted to attempt to throw in there? If your microphone will let you. I got nothing.
I don't think it's a live image anymore.
I don't think so either. I think she's frozen.
Maybe she's a mime.
Maybe she's a robot. I know one thing that I mean, even my parents, a real conversation with my dad, and not even that long ago, where he just confided. Wow, I'm sharing this on whatever, global right now. But he just confided in me that it was hard for him sometimes to talk with other grandparents who are so excited and proud of accomplishments that their grandkids are making. And it's not that he doesn't think that our kids are great and things are going well for them. He loves our kids to death. He'd take a bullet for them any day. But like KRISTEN, like what you were saying, it looks different. And so when you're hearing about these big, huge things that other kids are doing, our kids' big, huge looks different than other kids' big, huge. And I think for him as a grandparent, I think it's good for him to mourn that. And it was good for him to talk with me because I could tell him that I mourn that too. Like,
acknowledging that loss is important. It is a loss. You know, there's many different ways we can have loss in our lives, and this is one of them. You know, maybe my son is not going to get cheered on a sports team out on the field. But maybe his accomplishments, you know, are going to bring him just as much happiness as, you know, the football player out there on a homecoming night. It's okay that it looks different, but mourning and acknowledging that loss is important too. That's
huge. I think it's really huge. I'm whoever you are, thank you for giving us that question. I think I totally agree with KRISTEN. I think you just have to walk that. I think it's a journey. I don't think there's a clear answer there. I think it's support, and I think you're going to be walking that together with your daughter. Yeah. Another question. How do you find hope when you were told you would get to adopt, and then after a year and a half, they send the baby back home?
I think that you have to remember that no matter what they say, foster care is for reunification. Does adoption happen? Yes. But every single foster care case where mom and dad's rights are intact, you have to approach like it's reunification. And sometimes caseworkers don't present it that way. They'll say, this is a surefire. Mom's had previous terminations. This horrible thing happened, until the judge signs a termination order, and then until the appeals go through. This is not an adoption case. And once you've already gone through that and you're experiencing the pain and the disappointment of that, it's a big struggle. And it's a lot easier if from day one you know that every foster care case is a reunification case, unless you've got that signed order from the judge saying otherwise. So I think finding hope in that is backing up and, you know, going forward. Now we know it's not really an adoption case until those orders are signed and the appeal process has gone through.
Right. Hey, Laura, are you with us again?
I think I'm back. Yes.
Yeah. I was just sharing the question. How do you find hope when you were told you would get to adopt, and then after a year and a half, they sent the baby back home?
That is the hardest thing in the world. And I'm usually the first contact when people ask about joining a support group or they're thinking about foster care. We've had a lot of those. They're thinking about foster care, and so they want to kind of ask questions. And, you know, at least where we're at, the goal is almost always return home. And until that goal changes, you can't put 100% stock in what somebody says, oh yeah, you'll be able to adopt these kids, because ultimately the only decision maker involved in that is really the judge. And I've seen cases where CASA, GAL, caseworker agency, you know, everybody is telling the judge these kids don't need to return home, and it happens anyway. So you really have to kind of protect your heart in that situation. You are there to provide a loving and nurturing home. You're there to help them overcome any delays they might have, give them some kind of normalcy. But ultimately, until the judge changes the goal to termination of parents' rights, you have to believe that they will always return home.
And I would go further than that, at least here in Michigan, and even after the goal change, until the order is actually signed, because
Right.
it's not unusual for a goal change to happen and then the goal change to be changed back.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that happen here a couple of times too, where, you know, they're still waiting for termination, the goal is changed, and then I have seen one child specifically that went home after the goal was changed. I've got another friends that the goal was changed almost 3 years ago and they're still waiting on termination.
And then there's always the dreaded case where the appeal comes through and overturns the termination.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So you can't really breathe much.
Right.
We finalized 3 adoptions like in a week. I'll take a breath then.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When you're taking pictures with the judge after he's already signed.
Well, and I love it, you guys, because I think we're both, and it goes back to, I think, the whole, it's not, being a foster parent, it's not fair. Like, it's just that you live in that world where it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem logical. It doesn't seem fair. But like you guys said, like you both were saying, you need to stop, put the brakes on, backpedal a little bit, and remember that the goal is reunification.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how you're going to find hope, is when, like you guys are both saying, if you get too ahead of yourself, that gives you a different perspective, and that's maybe why you're getting finding hopelessness, because I don't know, it's still a rough situation, but yeah. It's easier to sit here and go, yeah, you need to backpedal, but yeah, that's
Right.
wow.
Well, for your own sanity. I mean, for your own sanity.
Right.
You know, and like I said, I give myself a pity party of about 5 minutes. I don't know if you heard that, but I did hear everything that you guys were saying while I was having technical difficulties here. Just so you know. But, you know, I do have pity parties where I've got 5 therapists coming through my door in a week, and I've got 3 doctor's appointments that are not me. You know, and I'm the one running around like a crazy person, and the bio parents, what are they doing? You know?
Right.
That's probably been my pity party. That's been my most frequent pity party, I would say. But, you know, this is what I signed up for. I signed up to care for kids that did not belong to me. I signed up for other people to be involved in my life and to come and check my water temperature every 6 months. You know, and this, you kind of have to look at it. These are just the rules of the game.
Okay, you guys, I have one last one that I'm going to give to you guys, and then if you have any other questions that you want to give to info@transfiguringadoption.com, please send them our way. And I guess if you have something directly to ask Laura or Kristen, I'll make sure that they get the question and they'll respond back to you. Otherwise, we'll have our crew over at Transfiguring Adoption get back to you and answer. This one, again, I'm going to paraphrase. It seems like it's an adoptive mom that's adopted internationally. She's wondering, how do you find hope? Basically, it sounds like she adopted from overseas, not knowing the abuse and trauma that her daughter had. It sounds like they've had to make, I don't know how else to say it, they've had to build a special place for her so that, like, it sounds like it make an addition onto the house so that she doesn't have access all the time. It doesn't sound like it's safe because of sexual abuse and stuff like that. Basically, it sounds like their house is on lockdown, and she kind of didn't sign on for that. She wants to know how to find hope in that, which how do you find hope in that?
I think still understand that even as bad as it all sounds, she's not alone. There are other families walking that same journey, and finding those families is important. They're out there, you know, and they're a support system, you know, and it's not what she signed on for, and the journey looks different. But there's still celebrations to be found within that. You know, sometimes when you're in the thick of it, in those trenches, you go day by day, and every day feels hard. But if you look back, you know, maybe doing something like doing a journal, things like that. I discovered I used to send weekly updates to the caseworker, just about how things were going when the kids first came to us. And I did that for about 6-7 months before I stopped. And and I read those just the other day, and they've been with us 3 years now. And I'm like, no way. That's what my days were like. And it was mind blowing to me, because I don't feel like it's drastically different when I look at, or when I think through my days. But when I look at those, which was effectively a journal, at the progress we've made, you know, find ways to see what you have to celebrate, find other families to help support you, and focus on that as you walk this journey. It's going to be different, but different doesn't mean worse.
Right. And I would add, there are always new therapies, resources, new ideas coming out that may not be tested, or may be tested in a small group and they've seen success. But it is all about finding support, which is what I love about our local group. We do allow people that are not local to us onto our group, because they just, they'll message me and they'll say, we don't have anybody here. I just need somebody to validate me that, because nobody understands. And that's what you have to do. You've got to find other people going through what you're experiencing, because there's hope and there's strength in numbers.
Mm-hmm. And as shocking to somebody outside of the foster care world when they hear that story might be, that is not the first time I've heard that description of what life is like. It is there. There are those families walking the same path that can be found.
I think, and I'm not sure how much. She just sent in another message too, just even talking about how she can't. She's like, really? Because I can't even go on vacation. Like, evidently her and her husband love to travel and they can't travel anymore. It's just so rough, because I think what you guys are saying is spot on, but it's time. It's hard to see it. But Kristen, you didn't say, like, I read, did you say 3 years? Like 3 years, not like, hey, 2 months later, I looked back at this and they were completely different kids. Right. Not even 6 months. I mean, it's
years.
And I think you do. I think it's more that mourning the loss, maybe, like, because you weren't expecting that. You weren't expecting. You didn't really sign on for what you got. You were hoping to take your kids, maybe. I'm seeing travel, so I'm thinking probably the American dream. You were hoping to go to Disney. That's not going to happen. And that's a loss. Like, your family doesn't look like that. But like Laura and Kristen are saying, if you find support, there are other families. We had a situation in our house, and my wife and I were just like floored, and we were like deer in the headlights with the situation. We'd never come up against it before. And we had a woman that was a caseworker come over to our house, and she's pretty good friends with us. And we were telling her, and we said, we just feel isolated and alone, like we can't do anything anymore. And we kept going on about the behavior, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry you feel alone. And then she paused, and she's like, is that weird that I'm not talking to you about the behavior? Because I hear it all the time, so it really doesn't surprise me.
Right. I don't find it shocking when I hear those behaviors either. And Darren, we love to travel. It's just sort of why we go to work. Right. So we used to go to Great Wolf Lodge, every 6-8 weeks. It was one of our favorite things until they almost threw us out. And, there were just a lot of those things. It was a regular part of our life. We were always going somewhere different. We adapted, and we found a way to make it happen, even though it looks really different than what we used to enjoy. And somehow in all of this, we pulled off a month-long trip to Arizona and Texas. My caseworkers all still think I'm a little bit crazy, but we did it. And it did not look like other people's family vacations to Arizona and Texas. but we did it, and we got to see the Grand Canyon. And I had wanted to take the kids there since they were born. You know, it was in my head. We were going to get to the Grand Canyon, and it looked very different than what other families had. I had one boy tied to me. If he goes down, I go down too. It'll be okay.
That's awesome.
But we all made it back. And it was very different. We have different, you know, safety plans and things that we have to institute in our house. And we found a way to make that work while we're traveling. And it's very different, but it's happy for us. You know, I'm so proud of that trip and what the kids got to see and what we got to do. And I'm so glad we did it, even though it was really, really hard and very different than what another family might have experienced on that same trip.
Yeah, I agree. We don't, you know, you're not going to find any of foster parent life in a fairy tale story, you know, but you do have to adapt, and your idea of normal will change and evolve over time. But if you keep hanging on to, I should be able to go to all of my biological child's activities, you're going to be disappointed. You know, I'm just going to let you know right now. And, you know, those are conversations that you need to have with everybody in the household, because there are some behaviors that you cannot take out into public, you know, and they may show themselves regularly, and they may just rear up on those perfect moments.
Oh no, we lost the sound again, and it was so good. Well, but I'll piggyback off of what you're saying real quick, is that sometimes that support group might not be your family either, because I think a lot of people are used to going to family, and family doesn't always understand. They haven't had the experiences or the training or whatnot, and they don't understand it. Yeah. So you definitely need to find a support group that gets other foster parents or other adoptive parents that will get it, but maybe not even your mom and dad, or, I mean, if I know some people that are like best BFFs with their mom or their dad, they still might not get it.
And we have Thanksgiving with other foster families. You know, Thanksgiving dinner is going to be with other foster families. Doesn't mean we're not going to see family there, but, you know, sometimes it's just easier this way on everyone, including our kids.
Well, and I think it's easier too, because I mean, I can think of some friends that they invited us over to their house, and we were so excited because they don't have children together, but they've worked with kids that have been through trauma. So it was so nice to go to their house, and I didn't have to make sure the door, like different things like doors stay open, only girls in girls' rooms. I didn't have to police any of that. Like, they were automatically policing it. They got the behaviors. They didn't. It's just stuff like that when you're around other caregivers, that they just get it and they know what to watch for. And if your 15-year-old decides to throw themselves on the floor and throw a fit like a 2-year-old, everyone's like, yeah, my kid just did it 5 minutes ago.
Yep, nobody blink. You can just relax and enjoy your holiday.
Exactly. And I think knowing your family's threshold is very important as well. Like, my mom, she can handle watching our kids and even doing an overnight, but she's the only grandparent that can really do that. And some of them can only handle a couple of hours, you know, and you have to know that and not expect all of the grandparents to be able to fully participate in your life.
Right.
You know, give them picture perfect moments and get them out the door before somebody blows.
And knowing your loved one's limits yourself, because grandparents, they might want to try, and, you know, they had your sister's kids over and they want to have your kids over and make it fair. And you have to be okay with saying, no, you can't. It's not going to work. My kids don't sleep out of my house. You know, there's just nowhere. And you have to be comfortable to say, you know what? No, we can't do it that way. It's just not going to work. And have the conversation so that nobody's offended, nobody's feelings are hurt. But
Yeah.
Other people's limits is important.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. It's approaching our hour limit, so I'm going to cut you off. Thank you so much, both of you. Again, Laura and Kristen are just seasoned parents. They're also doing a lot just to make the world of foster care and adoption a better place for all of you. These are two dynamic women. Laura, can you real quick tell people if they want to get involved with the Southern Illinois support group, how can they do that?
We have a Facebook group, and I believe it's called Foster Care and Support of Southern Illinois. So the way I find it, you type in foster, and they are all listed, and of Southern Illinois, that's the one you want. But send me a message when you request to join, because I like to investigate who's in our group.
And Kristen is also the co-founder of, again, a software program called Foster Garden, which helps caregivers to keep track of all of those important documents and different things that they need to take care of their kiddos that their agency is requiring. You really need to check it out. It's very affordable, and quite honestly, I don't know how most foster parents live without it. But they can go to fostergarden.com to check that out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Definitely check that out. Thank you so much, both of you. If you're looking to get more involved in a support community, definitely go check out transfiguringadoption.com and get in touch with any of our crew there. We'd love to get you connected to a community. We'd love to help support you. If you're someone that's watching right now and you're not a caregiver, but you'd like to help caregivers, we actually have a group called the ELF Squad that has just, and when you get there, you'll get the name once it's all explained. But they are a group of people that are passionate about supporting caregivers and protecting kids. So if you can't take a kiddo into your home, but you want to help caregivers and some of the things that you heard Kristen and Laura talking about, they're on there helping caregivers. So please get in touch with that. Thank you to everyone for joining with us, and we'll see you at the next discussion panel in January of 2017.